It's lovely to be here today with all of you. And sorry I can't be with you in person. Something, a personal matter has cropped up, which means it's very difficult for me to be with you today. So I'm recording this in advance of Thursday's session, just in case it's needed. So I'm hoping it's not. But if it is, just keep me in your thoughts, and I'm really grateful to be here. That's the most important thing, that I can help you today. And so I guess we go through personal setback all of the time, don't we? And I am an executive coach with a difference in that I support senior leaders during personal setback. And that can be something really tough, like bereavement. It could be financial issues, relationship issues that are impacting an employee's performance. And it might be that no one's noticed yet. It might be that the employee just needs some support to help them keep their performance at their optimum level. Because when an employee is suffering a personal setback, not only will they suffer, but also their teams, their KPIs, profitability, and ultimately the organisation will suffer as a result. So I do what I do because I used to be a managing director of a multi-million-pound manufacturing company when we lost our youngest son, Charlie. So I really know what it feels like to need to look the part when internally you're falling apart. And today we're all facing significant personal setback. We are cooped up at home. Many of us think we're stuck at home. I'm trying to reframe it as being safe at home, but still it's very challenging. We've got young ones running around, and it can be really, really quite difficult. So today's webinar is all about supporting you through that setback and how you can coach yourselves forward during that personal setback. And I'm going to give you a few hints and tips and techniques to help you do that. So without further ado, I'm just going to share my screen, and just bear with me because I'm not the most technical of people. And we're going to go from there and slideshow from current slide. There we go. Okay, so great. You've got the impossible. Yeah. So is it impossible, or are we possible? I'm possible. It's a choice. We all have a choice. And when you go through this presentation, you'll recognize that many times during it, we'll be looking at the factors of choice and how we can decide how we're going to move forward. Okay, so what we're going to be covering today is how we can foster our own resilience. We can do that by being in the now, and we're going to look at why that's so important. We're going to look at strengths awareness. If we're aware of our strengths, then we're far more confident during personal setback, and we're far more likely to be able to keep going using our strengths. Rest and reflection. Sometimes we think, gosh, it's so easy to stay in the office, the home office or the dining room until, from 8:30 in the morning until 6:30 at night. But actually, is that going to help us keep going through setback? What do we need to do in order to bounce back? We need to rest and we need to reflect. And so we're going to look at why and how we can do that. And then finally, we're going to look at our choices. Choice of being a victor through this or the victim. Okay, we're going to complain about it and moan about it. And we're going to sit on our doorstep and post pictures of us crying on Instagram, or are we going to really try and move forward and be the victors in this? Okay, sorry, I couldn't help that reference to Sam Smith, I think it was. Okay, so why is it important to be in the now? Well, as we go through life, we spend a lot of our time living in two spaces. And one of them is this one here, in the past. We spend a lot of time ruminating about how wonderful things were in the past. If only we could just get back in the office, it would be so much better. Outside of COVID, we think about things that we maybe haven't forgiven other people for. We think of things we haven't forgiven ourselves for. And so we spend a lot of our time and energy in the past. So yes, blame. Quite often when we look at the past, we feel there's blame. Of course, there's wonderful memories that we have in the past, and that's great. And if that's what's bringing you good energy right now, then definitely hold on to that. But ask yourself, are your thoughts about the past bringing you good energy, and are they helping you move forward during setback, or are they holding you back? Then the other place we look at is the future. And outside of coronavirus, we spend a lot of time up here, right in this corner here, thinking about, if I can get that new car, I'll be really excited. When I get that promotion, I'll feel like I've really achieved. If we pay off the mortgage, then we'll be happy and feel secure. When actually the equation is the wrong way round. It's not if we work really, really hard, then we'll be successful, then we'll be happy. Actually, if we are happy, then we will work hard and by nature be successful. So yes, hankering after the past or wishing for different things in the future, a new holiday, it's energy that is being exhausted and wasted. The past has gone. Some people might even argue your version of the past compared to theirs. And the future, we have no idea what's coming. So the energy we spend thinking about it, worrying about it, fearing it, will I keep my job? Will I be furloughed? Will my business manage through this? Will I survive? Will I get poorly and bring the virus into my home because I'm working with people? I'm a carer. All of those things are bringing us anxiety and worry. And so really the best place to be in through setback and any time during our lives is this tiny little intersection here, and that is the now. The now is what we know for sure. 100% we know for sure what's happening right now. So think about it. Right now, you're watching a webinar. Right now, you know you're safe. You might have some worries right now. That's okay. That's what's happening right now. That's what you know right now. Okay? Now, this is a very much at the base of what mindfulness is and why we need it, and why phenomenally throughout the world it's changing the way people think. And there's so many free apps and tools to use. This diagram comes from a lady called Jenny Critchlow, and her website jennycritchlow.com has lots of free meditation techniques and tools, and you can join her daily meditations online, which is great. And there's Headspace. There's many different apps that you can use for mindfulness. But mindfulness is all about bringing us to the now, bringing us right down to the here and now, okay? So I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. And mindfulness doesn't need to be sitting in a room that's silent and nomming for ages. It's about noticing what's going on right now in your life, right now, what you know for sure. And I'm going to give you some tip on how to do that. So it's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. And you can do this while you've got a crazy household. You can do this when you're in a meeting that's making you anxious. You can do this at the dinner table when everyone's arguing. And you can do it on your own at home. You can do it when you're trying to sleep and you can't because you're worrying. You can do it to bring yourself to the now. So what I'd like you to do is think of 5 things that you can see. 5 things around you in the room that you can see. Now think of 4 things that you can feel or that are touching you. So not your emotional feelings, but the bottom in the chair, your feet on the floor, your jumper against your skin, etc. 4 things that you can actually physically feel. If you're sat outside, it might be the wind on your face. It might be the cool air as you breathe in and the warm air on your upper lip as you breathe out. Now think of 3 things that you can hear. There's less traffic noise at the moment, so I'm really struggling. It gets harder as you go down in numbers. So then 2 things that you can smell. And 1 thing that you can taste. That's by far the hardest. Okay, so those are some tips and techniques to help you get through into the now, to help you really, really ground yourself. And you'll notice that when you were doing that exercise, you weren't thinking about anything else other than those things, rather than worries that you might have had on your mind, okay? Right, so let's see what else we've got next. Okay, so being in the now is really important. And I mentioned that we might have worries in the now, and that's absolutely fine. Let's take a worry that we might have and look at it on this piece of paper or this screen. It looks quite small, and this worry could be something like, I don't think I did a great presentation. Now, when you're being in the now, notice where that worry sits within you. Is it in your tummy? Is it in your chest? Is it in your head? Something you know for sure right now is that you're worried about the presentation. But it doesn't just stop there, does it? We'll think, I really messed it up. I should have been more organised. I won't get asked to do it again. It was an absolute shambles. I think I've just ruined my chances of promotion. If so-and-so saw it, it might mean that I lose my job. And we build our worries and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. Before we know it, we're on the street homeless, okay, from one meeting. Or it could be that we're running late and we're telling ourselves off that we should have been more organised. Okay, so what we need to do is recognise that we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know that, that someone was watching and that would prevent it, we might lose our job. We have no idea whether or not that may scupper our chances of promotion. We don't know that we should have been more organised, and we don't know that it wasn't a great presentation. It could have been amazing. So when we look at it now, taking away what we don't know, we're left with our little dot, what we do know. And that's okay. And if I tell you to not think of pink elephants, you're immediately thinking of pink elephants. So telling someone not to worry is fruitless. So telling someone not to worry is absolutely not going to help them. And so really just accepting the worry, touch it, notice where it is in your body, and know that you can walk around with it, you can do your job with it, you can look after your children with it, because it's just that worry and it will go away. But accepting it is far more likely, far healthier for you than to try and brush it away, because the more you try and brush it away, the more you'll be thinking of it. Okay, so our next exercise is looking at our strengths. As I mentioned, the more we can notice our strengths, the more likely we are to be able to forge ahead during times of personal setback. So have a look at these strengths. Now, as we're going forward, try and, well, not try, but please do get a pen and paper and write down the strengths that you see in yourself. Many people, many of my clients find this really, really hard. So I've got a couple of tips to help you do this. Quite often we can't see our strengths, or we find it difficult to see our strengths through our own eyes. But if we think of ourselves through someone else's eyes, we get a far clearer vision of ourselves. So think of someone who really admires you, and it could be in business, it could be in your personal life. What would they say if they were saying, I really admire so-and-so in the workplace because, what would be the answer? Or they're my best friend because, what would be the end of that sentence? So scribble down all the words and any more that come into your mind. So for example, sense of humor isn't on here. Put that on. Anything you've got you want to put down, pop it on there. And this is just to help you. A lovely tool and technique that you can do with your children or your family is to each think about something that you've all done as a challenge, something that you might have done it separately, not together as a family, or you might just want to do this on your own. But think about a time when you've gone through challenge and you've come out the other side, you've had a successful result. When you think about that challenge and you reflect back on it, what are the strengths that you showed that helped you get through that challenge, helped you get the result, the desired outcome that you wanted? So again, write down all those strengths that you displayed during that challenge. Okay, brilliant. So of course you'll be able to go back and you'll be able to pause the webinar and take as much time as you need. When you've done that and you've got a nice list of strengths, then think about how you can use them in the next few months in these difficult times. So for example, if we look at mine, I might pick sociable, for example. That's one of my strengths and it's just something I like being. So how can I use sociable as being one of my strengths in the next few months? Well, let's say that I'm finding it really tough because I'm not, I'm working really, really hard. And my partner is complaining because I'm in work too much, in my office too much, and not spending enough time with the family. So I might think, right, how am I going to use? I know I've got that skill of sociability. How am I going to use it? So I might think, well, I'm going to just spend more time with the children. Well, that's not really going to help me because it's not a SMART goal. It's something that's just out there in the ether and it's not really holding me accountable. But if I think of a SMART goal, so that is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. There are many other acronyms, but that's the one I use. How can I do that? Well, okay, so I'm going to say that at 11 o'clock every day, I'm going to have a 15-minute break and a cup of coffee with everybody. And I'm going to do the same thing at 4 o'clock. And I'm going to have lunch with everybody, make sure we all get together for lunchtime. So that's using my skill, my strength of being sociable and putting it to good use with a SMART goal. Okay, I might even decide that at the weekend I'm going to plan a quiz for the family and we'll all get online and do that with other people that we know. Okay, so your SMART plans using your strengths. Right, so now we're going to look at resilience and why bother looking after ourselves. Well, if, like me, you tend to be a bit of a people pleaser and like to put everybody else first, this one is definitely for you because you're the kind of person that probably books a session in the gym, might book a nice massage, might get their nails done, and then as soon as work calls or family calls and stress, pressure builds up, those things are the first to go. You cancel the gym because you've got a client. You cancel a nail appointment because you've got to take your daughter to netball, and you cancel your massage because you're needed somewhere else. What happens is those are the things that keep us going. And so really, if we reframe looking after ourselves as being a selfish thing and think about it instead as being there more effectively for other people, then we're far more likely to look after ourselves. My neighbour calls it fitting her own oxygen mask first. So really, this is so important. And another thing I'd like you to do on a piece of paper when you have the time is to draw and make time, because it's important, because it's about you, is to draw a boat. That's you, okay? And under the boat, you've got your river, and in the river, lurking at the bottom are some debris. Now, your river is your resilience. When your river is high, your resilience is high, and you're likely to float over the debris without even knowing it's there. However, when your river gets low, you're likely to hit the debris and get a hole in your boat, and we all know what happens when we get a hole in our boat. So let's think about, draw some debris and think about what is the type of thing that will send me over the edge? What is the type of thing that's going to make my boat sink if I get a hole in it? So it could be working from home. That might be something that's going to really get to you in the next few weeks. It could be a difficult colleague that you're dealing with. It could be a poorly parent. It could be a client, for example, who is difficult and giving you challenges at the moment. And it could be a presentation that you've got coming up. So those are the things that are likely to send you over the edge, to really maybe make you lose your temper with your family or your colleagues. It might cause you to work less effectively, and it may cause you to lose sleep, which leads to poor health. So it may cause you to drink, it may cause you these things, may cause you to eat unhealthily and forget about exercise, procrastinate about that because you're just so stressed, okay? And then your river of resilience is likely to drop. So how can you keep your river of resilience high? Well, these are some examples. They're a little bit dated, as you can see. There's a date night there. Nowadays, we're asking where we're going to go for dinner, the dining room or the kitchen or the lounge. Some new restaurants that we never thought we'd have. Bath time with kids could be something that you think, God, no, that really will tip me over the edge. So it might be that you want someone else to do it for a change. But these are just examples of somebody else's. One of my clients had picked out these things. So going to a yoga class, so booking online and going online to a yoga class you can do. 10 minutes of mindfulness a day, saying to your husband or your partner, or someone who's maybe further afield that you can't get in touch with, let's make sure that we have a date night. What are we going to do that's special? How can you make that special? Remember, you've got a choice. You can always make something special if you really put your mind to it. So these are the things that are going to help keep your river of resilience nice and high. And those things at the bottom will still be there, but you will be able to cope with them far more effectively if you're looking after yourself. If you fill your own fuel tank, you'll have more to give for other people and help them fuel theirs as well. If you don't, you'll be no good to anybody. So really bear that in mind as you move forward during this setback. Okay, so the final slide that I have to share with you is Charlie's Star. Now, Charlie's Star came from a coaching model that I designed after preparing for a keynote talk that I was delivering about my story of how we lost our son and how I decided to get back to some kind of normality. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew it had to be done. And really made the choice from victim to be, not to be a victim, but to be a victor instead. And then I thought, well, it's all very well having a story. Everybody has a story, but I really wanted to leave my audience with something to take away. So I considered, what was it that helped me make that shift? How did I get from victim to victor? Okay, so the reason, that's the reason behind this star. So what I'd like you to do is think of a challenge that you've got at the moment. It could be anything you like. It could be just getting through this time. It could be something more urgent, as so what job am I going to change jobs? You might have a decision to make. You might have a path, two paths that are facing you. You just don't know which one to take in your career or your personal life. Write that down. What is your challenge right now? What is there something you'd like to think about in the next 5 minutes? What would you like to oil the cogs with in the next 5 minutes? Okay. Now, when you've got your challenge, think about your admirer. Now, that is someone who really looks up to you. They think you are amazing. If your challenge is a business challenge, may I suggest that you think about someone who admires you in business. They don't need to work with you, but they can watch you from afar in the way you run your business, the way you work, the way you are as an employee, or the way you are as a leader. Someone who really admires you. If it's a personal matter, think about a relevant personal person who has an admiration for you in the field that is relevant to you right now. So say, for example, you don't know what to do as a parent. Think about someone who really admires you as a parent and thinks you're an amazing parent. Okay. what would they say? What would their advice be for you right now? Just write it down. What words of encouragement might they give you? What would they say? Okay. Then think about your inspirer. Now, again, pick a relevant inspirer. And this is someone who really, really inspires you, someone you look up to, someone you consider really does things well in the field that you're thinking about. Now, what would they say to you in this situation? And importantly, what would they do? If they were you, what would they do in your situation? What would they do? Write it down. Okay. Now, you've got the Lord Sugar, you've got the Firer, the worst that can happen. If you move forward in the way you're considering moving forward, what's the worst that can happen? Now, you can split this into two and do both options. If you've got a path and you're wondering whether to go one way or the other, what's the worst that can happen in both scenarios? So for me, just for those of you who are stuck, the worst that could happen for me when I was stood in the hospital and had just found out that we had lost Charlie, the worst that could happen was that we would never, ever be happy again. And that really, really did frighten me. The worst that could happen if I decided to move forward and be a victor would be that we still wouldn't be happy, but at least we would have tried. Okay, so what's the worst that can happen for you? Okay, then the Hirer. Now, this is the best that can happen. What's the very best that can happen for you? And for me, it was that we could be a happy family and we might even go on to have another child. And that's exactly what happened. And we are a really, really happy family. Maybe a bit stressed at the moment, arguing a lot more than usual because of lockdown, but we are essentially a very happy family. I'm very grateful for that. So what's the Hirer? What's the best thing that can happen if you move forward in the way you're choosing to move forward? Okay. What's the best that can happen? And maybe you've got another option. What's the best that can happen in that scenario? Okay. And then you've got your Inquirer. Now, your Inquirer is who or what do you need to know in order to move forward? So I remember I was asked to be, shortly after Charlie died, I was asked to be managing director of the company. And I was absolutely petrified. And I was a sales director, I was not a managing director. And our previous managing director had left and we'd lost our CEO. In tragic circumstances. So everywhere, everybody was in a mess. And the thought of being my brother's boss and my husband's boss was absolutely frightening. So my Inquirer, well, that came from, it was a neighbour who ran his own business. It was a family member who also ran a family business. And it was the head office in Holland that could help me become more business aware of the business, running the business, leading the business. So my Inquirers, there were many of them that helped me move forward and make this decision. So, and helped me do the role. And we went on to grow the business significantly. So that was very successful, but it was because of the support I had. I really believe that strong people are not people that do it all on their own. Strong people who are people who recognize that they have gaps that they need to fill. So who is your inquirer that's going to help you fill that gap? Maybe it's not who, maybe it's a what. What research do you need to do in order for you to help you fill that gap, to build that strength of resilience that you have? It might be, as I said, a neighbour. Who or what do you need to know in order for you to move forward? And finally, in the centre of your star, you're going to write the action that you're going to take now as a result of completing Charlie's Star. What are you going to do now? What are your next steps going to be after completing Charlie's Star? And we will be sending you details of this, instructions on how to complete Charlie's Star, along with lots of other details. So please do get in touch if you have any questions, or if you're wondering how to do that. Okay, so I think my final slide is just some contact details for you. Please do comment on LinkedIn. It'd be lovely to see you there, and to connect with you. And also you've got my website details and my email details there. So I think that's everything. I know I'm going to leave you in the good hands of Irwin Mitchell now, and you might have some questions for them. But it's been lovely to work with you today, and I really hope that you can find some support and some encouragement in what we've done today. And if you do need anything during the next few weeks and months ahead, please do get in touch. It'd be lovely to hear from you. Take care.